back for another Sheriff of Sodium video. Well, another residency interview season has almost come and gone, which means it's time now for applicants to confront one of the most impactful decisions that they'll make in their entire professional lives, which is deciding how to rank residency programs. And sometimes this is a stressful process. So if that's you, if you're wondering if you're making the right decision when you're making your rank order list, then I want to help you. But from the outset, I got to be clear. I can't tell you exactly how you should rank your programs. That's something you have to decide based on your goals and your values and your heart's true desires. I think the challenge is there's a lot of factors that matter, and those factors should factor in some way to where you rank a particular program. How to weight those factors is the challenge, and ultimately that's a personal decision that you can't just outsource to some faceless voiceover on the internet. You got to make that decision for yourself. However, of all the factors that you might consider, in my observation, there are some that are consistently overvalued by applicants, and there are some that are consistently undervalued. So what I'm going to do for you today is I'm going to tell you which is which. And the way I'm going to tell you is like one of those trustworthy talking heads on a business show yelling about stocks. I'm going to tell you which factors you should buy, which are the ones that are undervalued, and which factors you should sell, which are those that are overvalued. So let's get into it. Welcome to the Rank Order List, Buyers and Sellers Edition. I'm going to start with an easy one. You need to buy the program director. Because however important you think the program director is, it's more important than that. No other human being, other than you, of course, is going to have a greater impact on whether you succeed or fail during residency. Even if you're a rock star, you're going to have some stumbles, and you're going to have to work through some challenges. Life happens during residency, and you're likely to have a situation come up where you need support. You need the program director in your corner. And when you do, you want the PD to embrace that opportunity because that kind of stuff is the very reason that they wanted to do this job. When you have that kind of program director, the kind who believes in you and wants you to succeed, who does the work because they love seeing residents become, the kind who can turn into an attack dog and protect and advocate for you. Well, if you find that, my friend, you found the kind of program director that gives you an insurance policy against whatever stuff life throws at you during residency. Now, if, on the other hand, you choose, because of geography or the program's name, to overlook your concerns and go to a program that has a different kind of program director, like, the kind who took the job because they were getting burned out in clinical practice and they just wanted anything that got them out of clinic. Or maybe the kind who plans to use the PD role so that they can climb the career ladder to division chief or vice chair or associate dean or DIO. And this kind is even worse because this phenotype of program director is very skilled in office politics and managing upward and keeping up appearances that please their own bosses so they can get promoted. If you go to this kind of program, you're going to be choosing to walk a much more narrow pathway to success, and you're exposing yourself to significant downside risk. Next, I think you should sell AI. There are a growing number of programs that are successfully incorporating different AI solutions into resident workflow. Last week, in fact, I talked to an applicant who was thinking of ranking a certain program number 1 because they gave every resident an AI scribe. And wouldn't that be so much better for wellness and preventing resident burnout? So I guess here I have to assume the role of the grumpy old man yelling at the clouds and tell you why this isn't as good as it sounds. So let me start here. The most important thing that you're going to get out of your residency training isn't the credential or a line on your CV. The most valuable thing you're going to get out of residency is your training. Residency is not just something you have to endure or make it through so you can get on to really living. You need to survive residency, sure. But you want to emerge from the gauntlet with expert knowledge and deep skills that are actually going to help you care for other human beings. I will concede that having an AI scribe probably would make your life easier on a day-to-day basis. But I'll put it to you that even humble note writing is a cognitive exercise, and I'm just not sure that outsourcing that task to a bot is going to get you where you ultimately want to be. I mean, if efficiency is the only thing you care about, if efficiency is all you want, I mean, why don't you have ChatGPT go to the gym for you too? Why don't you let Claude do that workout? I mean, think of all the time you'll save. Wellness, man. Now, obviously, in this forum, I am on record as having expressed serious concerns about where AI and the physician marketplace are headed. And as a doctor in the modern era, you absolutely need to be able to harness AI. But the more stuff you know how to do, the more skills you have, the farther AI is going to get you. And in contrast, if you let yourself get into a position, even if it's done under the guise of wellness, where your default problem-solving strategy becomes, let me ask the bot, then let me tell you something. You're setting yourself up to be a replacement-level physician. But let me move on and explore something else that's very important on most applicants' rank lists, which is location. And yet, there are aspects of that that are both consistently undervalued and consistently overvalued. So, first up, when you're thinking about location, you should sell far-flung amenities. Now, many of you probably know what I'm talking about as a veteran of the interview season. How many of you interviewed at programs where you heard something like this? Our program is in such a great location. I mean, we're only 2 hours from this really cool major city, and we're just 3 hours from the beach, and 4 hours to the mountains. See, we've got the best of everything. Okay, hold up. This is residency we're talking about. And during residency, something that's 4 hours away from the hospital might as well be on the freaking moon. You're never going to do it. Or at the very least, you aren't going to do it more than a time or two a year, so you really shouldn't let it factor into your decision making too much. Now, before you start wilding in the comments, I am aware that there are certain residents who do, in fact, use their precious off days to drive hundreds of miles to go rock climbing or parasailing or something. And these people, generally, they're crazy, and their preferences should have no real impact on your rank order list whatsoever. Instead, you should buy accessible amenities, because when your time is pinched, there is a real premium on things that you can get your hands on right now. So when you look at a program's location, look for good takeout food options, or safe trails to bike and jog, or green space to walk your dog, or easy access to shopping, or weather that doesn't ruin your day, because these are the kind of things that will have a positive impact on your day-to-day quality of life. Next up on location, you should buy proximity to the hospital. If you haven't noticed already, many excellent teaching hospitals are not really located in the nicest parts of cities. But that can create a real safety and quality of life issue when you have a job where you're likely to be coming and going at all times of the day and night. At the same time, other excellent teaching hospitals have the opposite problem, where the area around them has become so gentrified that it prices out someone who's living on a residence salary. And in either case, it can be tempting to try to look past that and say, it won't be any big deal. I mean, if I'm matched there, I just got to commute. I mean, and wow, look at this cute little place I found on Zillow. I mean, it's only 20 minutes from the hospital. Please don't do this. A lot of what I'm telling you in this video is just my opinion, but what I'm about to say here is broadly backed up by the social science literature, which shows very consistently that commuting has a negative impact on your happiness at work and overall sense of well-being. But what's funny about that is that human beings consistently undervalue the importance of this. They'll take a job with a longer commute, even if it pays them only a little bit more, even though the amount that they make is not enough to offset the decrement in their happiness. In fact, there's one study that showed that every 20 minutes of commuting was equivalent to receiving a 19% pay cut. If you want to learn more about this, look up the commuting time paradox in economics. Now, I know what you're saying, or at least some of you, but Sheriff, this can't be. I asked all the residents at such and such program about this on my interview day, and they all told me they commuted, and they all said it was just fine. Well, partner, there's one little problem with that. There's no control. The people you asked don't know what they're missing. They don't know the counterfactual. They don't know what their life would have been like if they hadn't been spending X minutes every day jostling around on the subway, or stuck in bumper-to-bumper traffic, or slowly winding their way to the top of the hospital parking garage because some boner was trying to back their SUV into a parking spot. What would happen to these same people who said that their commute was no big deal if I suddenly let them out of work 45 minutes earlier? I mean, they think I was the coolest attending ever, and they would use that time to sleep or exercise or cook healthy food or spend time with their significant other or watch videos on YouTube or anything else that they wanted to do that makes life rich and meaningful. One thing that I've learned in my career is that there's a fine line. It's a lot finer than you'd think between being busy but staying buzzed and excited about your work and being so busy that you get burned out. Don't discount the value of keeping your life simple and streamlined. If a program setting allows you to live comfortably near the hospital, that may be a real setup for success. Let's move on. Next up, you should sell salary. Not too long ago, a medical student shared with me a list of programs that she was considering, and she'd organized them by the PGY1 salary, and there was a difference of $13,000 from the highest to the lowest. Now, an extra $1,000 in your bank account every month, I mean, that sure seems like something you might ought to strongly consider when you're making your rank order list, right? Right? The only problem is, by and large, resident salaries are standardized, so you should have a rebuttable presumption that any difference you see simply represents differences in something that's already been priced in. Consider, for instance, the cost of living. I mean, your dollar goes a little farther in Birmingham than in Boston, and in general, programs price that in. Similarly, the program website for a program in New York or California may list a higher salary than one in Texas or Florida or Tennessee. But if so, some of those nominal dollars are going to disappear before they get to you because of the state income tax. In general, it's priced in. But maybe you already used NerdWallet to make a cost of living adjustment, or you used ADP's paycheck calculator to estimate your taxes and your take-home pay, and you still have found a program that's going to pay you $3,000 a year more. But then you get to reading the fine print, and you see that this program charges you $250 a month to park in the parking garage. I'm telling you, in general, it's priced in. Now, are there some programs that are stingy without any market-based reason for it? Yes. And are there some others who, for various reasons, are willing to pay you more? Also yes. And you should feel perfectly entitled to use that information in your ranking decision if you want. All I'm saying is, don't get fooled by accounting tricks or market adjustments that are already priced in. Instead, the average resident is much more likely to find value if you buy benefits. There's much more variability in resident benefits than in salary. Some programs, for instance, give their residents free lunch every day, or they have travel allowances that allow you to show your research at meetings, or they cover the registration fee for your specialty boards or your USMLE Step 3 exam. So if you're interested in considering financial factors when you rank programs, stuff like this may actually make a bigger difference to your bottom line. But when you're thinking about benefits, you should consider also whether you are actually an average resident, because there are some benefits that are going to matter much, much more to some residents than others. Some resident health insurance plans are going to cost you quite a bit in premiums and even more in copays and coinsurance. And other hospitals will give you a Cadillac insurance plan that covers almost everything with minimal cost at the giant university system where you work. So if you're a person who has a chronic illness that's going to require management during residency, this is an incredibly important distinction. Some resident health plans actually cover oocyte cryopreservation or egg freezing, which again is a benefit that isn't going to matter to most residents, but it may have incredible value to some. Even something as simple as a high-quality in-hospital gym may be a very valuable benefit for certain residents. Ortho bros, I'm looking in your direction. But let me tell you a place where you're unlikely to find value, and that's why you should sell your dean's advice. Yes, your dean wants you to succeed, but your dean also wants to see a real snazzy-looking match list for the school, and when in doubt, most deans are going to default to program prestige or their own stale knowledge from when they matched years ago. And to some extent, this point that I'm making may also apply to your faculty advisors. So you can consider their advice if you want, but you should not regard their words as if they were handed down from heaven on a stone tablet. Anyone who's giving you match advice, you should push them to tell you not just what program, but why. And then you can decide for yourself if their reasoning is both credible and applicable to your personal circumstances. Sadly, if we're talking about the importance of other people's opinions, too many applicants undervalue this, so I want you to buy your significant other's opinion. Now, this goes out the window if you're single. In that case, feel free to rank a quality program that's located in a crime-infested rat hole. I mean, all you're going to see is the hospital for 80 hours a week, so if the program's good, it really won't matter to you. But if you're not flying solo, it's a truism in life that you're not going to be happier than your significant other. And so you really should prioritize your partner's needs and desires. I mean, this person is very likely to be your single greatest personal source of support as you go through a very challenging period in your life. Look carefully at what their life is going to be like at every program on your rank order list. Make sure that they're supported and successful, and you will be too. While we're on the topic of people and relationships, let me highlight one more. You should buy parents and in-laws. Now again, this isn't necessarily for everyone, but it is an extremely important consideration if you already have children, or if you think that you might have children by the time that residency is over. Because if either of those things apply to you, please understand that your number 2 expense and your number 1 source of stress during residency is going to be childcare. Please believe me on this. When you are ranking programs, you need to think about what you're going to do for childcare when your child's school is closed because of some phony holiday that's not really a holiday for anybody who works in a hospital. Or what you're going to do when your nanny gets sick or quits on short notice because they found someone who pays them more. Or what you're going to do when your baby wakes up overnight with a fever and you're supposed to be receiving sign-out in the ICU in 2 hours. If you are a person who is lucky enough to have parents or in-laws who might be interested in alleviating some of this financial burden, and even better, some of this stress, by providing loving care for your offspring, that is an incredibly valuable resource, not just for you, but for your child. And if there is an acceptable residency training program that's located in a geographic location that would allow your parents or in-laws to do this, you really should strongly consider ranking that program number 1. Next, you should sell the board pass rate. It's not because passing the boards is unimportant. It's quite important, but I don't want you to overpay for a board pass rate when you're making your rank order list, because you should be aware that a program can achieve a high board pass rate in one of 2 ways. One is by providing a high-quality educational experience that's directly relevant to the board certification exam. But the other, which is the far more common strategy, is to simply try to select a group of residents whose previous test-taking experiences predict a high likelihood of success on the board exam, regardless of anything that actually happens in the program. Now, if you're a standardized test rock star, the difference between these 2 situations doesn't really matter. And in that case, you really don't need to think about the program's board passage rate in your decision-making at all. But if you're not a stellar test taker, then you really want to be sure that you're in a program that actually provides added value, not one where the program director thinks that their ARIS filter has already done the heavy lifting. Instead of thinking about the program's board pass rate, you ought to think about the things that actually go into achieving it. You should buy board prep resources. And I'm not talking here about the things that are often branded as board prep at different programs. I think you will encounter precious few board questions that you're going to answer correctly because of something that you saw on a PowerPoint slide at Grand Rounds or someone's morning report. I am very deeply skeptical that any program's board review series that's run by their faculty or their chief residents moves the needle very much on board pass rates at all. Instead, a program that actually cares about their residents' success on the boards, they put their money where their mouth is, and they give you a question bank or board review resources, as well as the time and incentive structure to use them. Actually, that leads naturally to my next point, which on first pass may sound obvious, but it gets into the video because this is very frequently overlooked and undervalued by applicants. So you want to buy deeds. Now, let me tell you what I mean. Every applicant has certain factors that are important to them when they're looking at programs. And applicants know that this thing, whatever it is important, so they look for it in the words that are written on the program's website. Or They ask about it at the interview, and in response, they hear some words about that thing. The problem is, even though evaluating a program on this dimension is very important to the applicant, relying on words to evaluate it leads to a miscalculation because programs know what the right words are. If you ask, does your program value resident wellness? You're going to hear, oh yeah. Does your program get residents into competitive fellowships? Most definitely. Does the program support residents from diverse or underrepresented backgrounds? Or does it value resident autonomy? Or do you have good mentorship? I mean, everyone knows the right answers to these questions. Actually, if you find a program that doesn't, then I guess you should put a hard sell on them right now. But while almost every program is willing to contribute words to the thing that you care about, you'll find, if you scratch the surface, that fewer actually demonstrate a commitment to that thing with their deeds. But some programs, they'll show you the list of research projects, or the fellowship match sheet, or the money, or the institutional structure, or the FTEs that are devoted to the thing that you care about, that they're professing to care about also. And when a program doesn't just tell you some words, but actually shows you their deeds on a dimension that you care about, you should buy. In contrast, you should sell hours supposedly worked per week. I put this in here because a couple of years ago, I talked with an applicant who had an Excel spreadsheet for programs, and it included a column that had the mean number of duty hours worked per week, which they'd taken from the AMA's FRIDA database. Look at this program, they said. I mean, I wasn't crazy about this program when I interviewed, but I mean, look, it says they only work 58 hours per week. I have little confidence in the accuracy of those figures, and I don't think that you should either. If you use data like that to make an important decision, it really is a garbage in, garbage out kind of thing. Now, having said that, choosing to disregard data from a survey with inconsistent methodology is very different than choosing to disregard credible accounts that residents in a particular program exceed the ACGME duty hour requirements and are required to lie about it. That you should view as a huge red flag and a failure of the program leadership, and in many cases it should be sufficient to move a program to the bottom of your rank order list if you rank it at all. Instead, you should buy good attitude colleagues. There's real value here, because among programs that adhere to the ACGME duty hour rules, here's the reality about how much you're going to be working. A lot. More than you want to. I mean, let's say, and let's just leave it at that. Residency's hard, and you're going to be challenged in a lot of ways. And if you choose to go to a place where there's a culture of condescending intellectual one-upsmanship, or a bunch of bean counters who keep track of how many patients are on your patient list and whether you checked every single checky box before you sign out, or where the program is enriched with inveterate complainers who think that everything sucks and everyone around them is stupid and just exists to make their life more difficult, well, let me tell you, you are going to make residency a whole lot harder on yourself. You're going to work a lot of hours. But what's going to make those hours tolerable is doing it with coworkers and faculty who are upbeat and supportive and enthusiastic and share a sense of purpose. Next, you should buy autonomy. Let me tell you what I'm talking about here. There are a handful of residency programs that have a very strong culture of supervision. These programs can be very comfortable to step into as a medical student because you know you're always going to have another resident by your side to help with every query that comes up, to double check your every move. But over time, this system, it should become less comfortable and more chafing. And it's also artificial and unrealistic in preparing you for your real life as a physician because this kind of tightly graded autonomy system, to me, it seems to suppose that once you reach some time-based threshold, all of a sudden you can do everything with no help. And in reality, even as an attending, you are going to constantly be confronted with stuff you don't know. And learning how to provide safe care in the face of uncertainty is an honest-to-God physician skill, and the best programs encourage you to embrace that mindset from day one. You didn't go to medical school just so you could be an epic data entry clerk or play a glorified game of Mother May I with every decision. You should prioritize programs that challenge you to be the most you can safely be and allow you to function at the highest level that you can without leaving you unsupported. Next, you should sell post-interview communication. As the rank order list certification deadline gets closer, you may find that some programs reach out, and you may find that others don't, and neither one should influence your rankings very much at all. Now, if you get a message from a program that feels genuine, it probably is, and I'll say it's good to be at a place that you're wanted, so take that message for what it's worth. At the same time, if a program that you loved remains silent, they're probably just following their own policy, so don't take it personally. Now, on the other hand, a program that tries for the hard sell by demanding from you a commitment that you're going to rank their program number one in order for them to rank you, that's committing a match violation. And beyond that, even more important, this program is providing you with a credible signal that their program director is a clown. And if you were paying attention 20 minutes or so ago when I was telling you how the program director is of utmost importance, you should disregard that signal at your own peril. On a somewhat related note, you should sell strategy. Now, fortunately, most applicants don't need to hear this. They realize that you can't game the NRMP matching algorithm. The algorithm will move in a stepwise fashion through your rank order list and attempt to assign you to programs in the order of your preferences. You do not need to harmonize your selections with those of programs. Unfortunately, studies have shown that some applicants don't understand this, and they try to do mental gymnastics to figure out what the program really thought of them. This is unnecessary, and if that's you, sell, sell, sell. You should also sell residency rankings. Stuff like the Doximity rankings, it's fine if you need to figure out what's the most prestigious program in your specialty. I mean, as if you didn't know already. But even if you care about prestige, and to be honest, unless you are hell-bent on pursuing an academic career at a similarly prestigious institution, you really probably shouldn't. But even if you care about prestige, there's often a bigger distance between program number 1 and number 5 than there is between program number 5 and number 30 or number 50 and number 200. So treating these numbers as a precise measure of anything is really probably only going to lead you astray. You should also sell visions of match day. This can be a harder one for some people to turn loose of than others. I mean, you've worked really hard to get to where you are. You've had many long nights of studying, many early mornings of patient care, many research publications that, maybe only a handful of people will ever read, but I'll tell you, those things didn't just hop onto your CV by themselves. And yet, all of this toil was largely unseen by others. You might not be able to politely tell people just how highly you scored on the USMLE, but if they see the name of a famous program next to your name on the school's match list, they'll know. This is part of what I call the instant CV, and it can be very seductive. I've talked about it before in other videos, and I really believe that if you want to have a career in medicine that you love, at some point you've got to decide to make decisions that are just for you. Otherwise, what you're going to find is that your dream program residency, your dream fellowship, your dream job, all those things are going to be characterized simply by what they signal to other people and not really what they mean to you. It would be cool to have the name of a famous program called out with your name on match day. But your classmates are going to forget where you matched by the time that you've signed the lease for your new apartment. You're the one who's going to have to live out what that match letter says for the next 3 to 7 years. And don't get me wrong here. Many of the most famous programs in medicine, they provide excellent training. But what I want you to be careful about is don't use a brand name as an excuse to look past red flags or offset real negatives. Before I close, I want to highlight just a couple of final things. You should buy vibes. Here again, I'm going to talk like a person with some gray hair because many of the best decisions that I've ever made in my life are ones where I went with my gut. And many of the most regrettable are ones that I tried to overthink. So maybe I'm biased, but my advice to you is if you have a good feeling about a program, you should go with it. Maybe more important than that, if you have a bad feeling about a program, really for almost any reason, I really don't think you should try too hard to talk yourself out of it. In this video, I've highlighted some factors that frequently get overvalued and some that are frequently undervalued, at least when you judge against the happiness and success of residency in the program. But what I haven't done is set out a specific formula for you that you should use to rank programs like, academics are 25%, locations 30%, salary and benefits 5%. I mean, it would have been silly for me to do that, but in a different but important way, it's almost just as silly for you to do that. I mean, you can sit there with an Excel spreadsheet and try to put numbers on these weights and come up with some magic formula, but you're not going to get the weightings right. And I'll bet when your algorithm spits out the rank order list for you, it's going to feel off. It's going to be wrong in a certain way. I mean, even if the math is sound. And if that's what you see, your brain or your heart has picked up on something and it's trying to tell you something. In contrast, when you get your rank order list right, you probably won't have a eureka moment. Instead, at a certain point, you'll feel a general awareness of this feeling of comfort, like, I'm good with this. And if you find that, that's the little voice in your head telling you that you've got it right. Click submit. And after you do that, you should sell, and I mean totally liquidate regret. Because once you certify that rank order list and the deadline passes, there's no backseas. Your fate is in the hands of the algorithm, and your job at that point becomes to play the hand that you get dealt. Now, statistically speaking, if you're a graduating MD or DO student, around 50% of you are going to match, but to a program that's not your first choice. Well, it's your first choice now. So celebrate. Don't think about what might have been. Think about what is, which is an incredible opportunity to take the next step in your journey to being the very thing that you wanted to be when you applied to medical school. And even if you are among the lucky 44% or so of students who get their first choice, like I said before, residency's hard. And there will almost certainly be some days where your mind will start to wander, and you'll wonder if life would have been better, or at least not so hard, if you'd made a different decision about where to rank programs. And I don't think you should go there either. Anytime in life that you make a difficult choice, it's very easy to wonder what might have been if you just made a different one. Feelings of regret are natural after you make an important and unchangeable decision. And I really think you should treat them like an expected consequence of having done that. Regret is the residue that gets left over from having made a tough decision. It's not a sign that you made the wrong one. Regret's a painful emotion, but it's also a backward-looking emotion. So a little bit's natural, but don't engage with it too much because it'll keep you from moving forward. You got a lot of good stuff ahead of you, and I want you to keep your eyes fixed on the horizon and your feet churning forward. I'm wishing all of you the very best in the match. Thanks for watching.